So, hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you something that might seem a little nerdy or maybe complicated and maybe at first irrelevant how this really applies to your business. But trust me, if you manage to understand what I'm telling you now, it's going to change your whole business. It's going to change how you look at opportunities in your business, how you apply your efforts, how you calculate revenue, and how you actually plan everything and structure. It will give you peace of mind when deciding whether to do something or not, because you will know exactly what will bring you results and what won't. This is something that absolutely changed my business, changed also my life, because what I'm going to show you applies literally to everything, and it's very important that you know this. It's directly related to how you plan your offers. And I really hope you manage to understand it. Or if not, I'm going to recommend you a book that will help you understand it in more details with more explanations. So let me share my screen. So today we are going to talk about a very romantic principle of how to work less and make more with your offer suit. So you know what an offer suit is. I have shown you this pyramid multiple times. We have our different offers starting from the free offer, our strategic freebie, going up to the low ticket offer that starts from anything of like €1 going up to 200, then a medium ticket offer, something about 1,500 tops, and then high ticket offer, our premium offer. Then we also have a retainer, something that everyone should have when they are developing their offers, because retainer or contract offers over a longer period of time help you really plan your revenue in advance without the need to constantly acquire new clients. So, if you don't know this pyramid and what an offer suit is, I recommend you going back to one of my videos where I explain in many details what is the principle of the offer suit and how to build it and what offers actually apply to each tier in this pyramid. I'm just going to remind you that the principle is that without the offer suit, coming out with just one signature offer, for example, something that costs, let's say, €3,000, we will be able to target only a specific, like only a fraction of our entire target audience. Because only this fraction will be able to pay that for our offer. And the rest, for them, that will be either too expensive in many cases, or not enough of a premium approach or personalized approach. So by coming out with just one offer, or coming out, it's okay. You can come out with just one offer, but you need to aim to always develop multiple offers to create the offer suit. And if you don't do that, you really limit the potential of your business, and you fail to maximize the revenue of your business. If you do create an offer suit, however, that targets different fractions of the target group, those who can pay for your signature offer, those who can pay for the cheaper offer, and also those who want a bit of a premium approach or something very special, they would be able to pay for your very high ticket offer, or potentially also a retainer. So the principle of creating the offer suit, like the reason is to maximize the potential of your revenue. And because in every single target audience, there are certainly people who are going to willing, between 5 and 10%, who are going to willing to pay much more than the rest. And yes, in the majority of, like in our entire target audience, the majority will not be able to even pay for our signature offer. And that is okay. That's why we create a pyramid with tiers that caters to every single one of these fractions. And it's not smart to say, okay, if they cannot pay for my offer, I'm not going to make an offer for them. Like if they cannot pay for my signature offer, I'm not going to offer them anything at all. By doing this, you actually will lose more than the majority of the, more than half, so a majority of your target audience. Somebody who could recommend you further to those people who would, for example, be able to pay a premium price. And creating the cheaper offers gives you also an opportunity to automate these things, because these people they don't really expect a high-end approach or personalized approach. So if they just buy an online course and it's all delivered automatically without you being there, you actually can sell on autopilot without spending any of your time except for the initial setup. When we talk about your signature offer or your premium offer, then you have to be there and you have to invest your time. So here you really need to realize that here you have a potential to automate, and here you need to invest your time. But what is important about the offer suit, and why does it actually work, and why am I so confident to tell you that in every single target audience, and don't try to convince me otherwise, because I will prove you wrong, in every single target audience there are people who will be willing to pay premium price, something that you really don't expect, and a lot of people who would be willing to pay just a little bit, and a solid fraction that will pay enough. And it's all based on the 80-20 principle. And I'm sure some of you have heard it, the Pareto principle or 80-20 principle, and most of you have heard it because of this thing. When we talk about 80-20 principle, very often we talk about the fact that 20% of your efforts lead to 80% of the results. And 80% of your efforts actually hardly have any importance for the outcome of your business or anything that you do. This is the reason why, for example, I track all of my time, and I try to identify the most high power activities that bring me the most results. And I would definitely recommend you doing the same, tracking what efforts and activities you actually do and which ones bring you the most outcomes. And you can measure that in terms of revenue, you can measure that in terms of like, let's say, content creation. What do you need to do to get most of it done? So you can apply it to different activities, not only whole work or whole revenue, but you can further fraction it into like content creation or marketing or budgeting or whatever there is that you're doing in your business. But the 80-20 principle does not only apply to the work we do, it also applies to the revenue. And the way how it applies to our revenue and to our clients and client sources and basically everything that is super important for our business, this is why it's so important to understand it. So this is how the 80-20 curve looks. We have two axes, and you can basically assign anything you want those axes, but usually we will have the x-axis where we have the number of people, and the y-axis where we have how much they're willing to spend. For example, we could say, okay, we are selling tickets to a football match, and on the x-axis we will have the amount of people who bought the tickets, and on the y-axis we will have the amount of the amount how much the ticket cost. So for example, here, if here the ticket price is 100 euros, the majority of the people will have bought the 100 euro tickets, but there will also be some that will just go, for example, to a sports bar and just pay for sitting there and watching the football match there. And there will be some that will just pay 5 euros for streaming at home. But there will also be some that will be willing to pay way more than 100 euros for the ticket because they want to be close to the court or maybe in a sky bar with having supervision of everything that's happening. And so they will want this premium experience and they will be willing to pay 10,000 for one match. And this applies to every single thing to our business. Literally, it will apply to all of your customers and it will apply to all of your target groups, B2C, for example, or B2B, or all of your customers. There will always be some, the majority that are paying a standard price, then some that are only willing to pay very little, and some that are willing to pay a lot. So I'm going to show you a real example. So this is a 80-20 curve from seminar attendees. So on the x-axis, you see the amount of people who came to the seminar, or like the potential people in the target group who could have come to the seminar. And on the y-axis, you see the amount of money the people could spend for that seminar. And so when we are selling the tickets, most of them will buy the tickets for 120 euros, for example. Oh, wait a second, sorry. This is 120 people paying, let's say, 10,000. The seminar is 10,000. So we will have the majority here paying this price. And just by knowing this data, we will be able to predict how many people there are who are willing to pay 5,000 and how many people there are who are willing to pay 100,000. And basically, by knowing this initial information, you will be able to predict very important numbers for your business that will allow you to tell what is possible and how you can fully maximize the potential. So by understanding that everything that this 80-20 curve applies to everything in your business, to every population you take, let's say customer population, or let's say workshop attendees, you will be able to say that among all of these workshop attendees, the majority bought these tickets, but there are also some that will be willing to pay less, and there are also some that will be willing to pay much, much more. And before we move to the summary, I just want to tell you how this actually applies to our offer suit. So if you remember our offer suit pyramid, we have our 4 tiers. And let's say your premium offer, like in my case, cost 7,300 euros. And then you have a medium ticket offer that costs 2,900, let's say. So I know that among my target audience, I will be able to predict based on the behavior of my previous customers, I will be able to predict how many would be willing to pay much more than 7,500 and how many will be able to pay a low ticket offer. Yeah. So as we know, this 80-20 curve applies to literally everything. And I know that, let's say with this color, most of the people, and so we have the prices here. And let's say this is 3,000. Let's say this is 6,000 and 9,000. And this is amount of people. So for example, if I were to look at my current customers, this would apply, that 10 of them were willing to pay the medium ticket offer. So if these were real data, I could plug this in into this curve. And based on this, I would be able to further predict if I wanted to know how many of them would be willing to pay, let's say 9,000, I would be able to just derive this information from the plot. And let's say it would bring me to 3 people. And this would tell me that from all of my customers, let's say this 10 people, 3 would have the potential to pay 9,000. And what is more, from these 10 people, there will be one who is willing to pay 20,000. And this is not fairy tale or wishful thinking. This literally applies to everything in your business. And if you don't believe me, get yourself this book. This is Perry Marshall, 80/20 Sales and Marketing. And here he shows real examples from the real world how this actually applies. So let me show one plot from here. So for example, if we were to plot the GDP of all countries in the world, we would see the 80/20 curve. That the majority, that the highest amount of the GDP in the whole world belongs to the mere 20% of the countries. Then we have a group in the middle, and then 80% contributing only to 20% of the revenue. Then he gives a few more plots that are just zooming in, saying that, for example, if you take the 20%, if you just take this part, the 20% from here, and you zoom in, this curve will apply again, because this curve applies literally to any population you take. Let me see if I can find how this applies also to things rather than revenue. I should learn to. It's in the end. Oh my God, it was in the appendix. That's true. So let me show you. This is the population in US cities. As you see, 20% of the cities contribute to the 80% of the population in the whole US, and the rest of the 80% of the cities contribute to only 20% of the population. If we take how much? 400 billionaires in the world, we will see that 80% of all their net worth is belongs to only 20% of those billionaires, and the 80% of the net worth the 20% of the net worth belongs to the 80% of the billionaires. Here's another plot of the milk production in Wisconsin counties, where we see the same picture, that 80% of the milk is produced by 20% of the counties. So this is just to give you a feeling that this curve applies to every single thing. You will take a classroom of children, and you can put them on the 80/20 curve, and you will see that you have just 20% of the children who contribute to the highest points in science, and the 80% of those children contribute to only 20%. This literally applies to everything. And with this, you are able to predict your revenue and scale tremendously. So let's put it this way. You have your premium offer, and you know, and you can predict that X amount of people in your target audience will be willing to pay for this. Then you have your medium ticket offer, and you will be able to predict that X amount of people in your population, in your customer base, will be willing to pay for this. And then you can also say with confidence that most of the people will only be willing to pay, and these lines, they never meet the axis. So if there was a potential for eternal clients, the endless clients, then this potential of revenue would also be eternal. And so here we would be able to predict that there is an X amount of people willing to pay 500 euros. And this is where you need to have your low ticket offer, where you know that the majority of the people would rather pay that, but you can automate these things and cater to this population on autopilot and focus yourself on like your own time and your team's time on catering to this population. And this is really the purpose, like this should be eventually the main goal for you is to towards move from left to right. Do not cater to these people, because this will only bring you 20% of your revenue. Cater to these people because they will bring you 80% of your revenue. And so let's say you have right now 20 clients. They bought something from you. Have a look at those clients, map out their journey, and think what could you offer to them that they pay you more. Acquiring new clients is way more expensive than creating new offers for existing clients, for the clients that are already happy with you, who already tried working with you, and would, if they have problems that you can solve, they would be happy to do that. So you just need to identify who among those clients that you already worked with would be willing to pay more, and offer that to them. That, of course, has to be valuable and solve a real problem. And the higher price tag you put, the more valuable it has to be. But I guarantee you, if you do have 20 clients, there will be 20% of them, and from 20 clients, that's 4 people who are willing to pay much more. You just need to find them. So what I would do, I would email them, or I would call them and say, hey, I remember you had problems with that and we solved this. I'm rolling out a new offer and I'm offering now this. Would you be interested in trying that? And I will guarantee you 20% of these people will say yes. So this brings me to the summary of today's video. 80/20 curve is the most important chart in any business. And if you understand that it applies to literally everything in our world, you will be in the top 5% who actually use it strategically. It is true whether you're looking at 10 people or 100 people. It is true whether you're looking at only B2C clients or only B2B clients, or if you're looking at all clients together, it will apply to every single population. Your top job as a business owner is to move your resources from the left, where the people are who can pay only very little, to the right, where the people are who can pay a lot. And your job is also to identify who those people are and to offer this to them. And there are, I mean, if you would be interested in knowing how to do this, this book is also, although a bit old, they would talk about AdWords that don't exist anymore, and the Google advertising. But there are 5 very interesting steps that you can consider. I mean, we have gone through this anyway with the lead magnet and everything, so you know how to do this. But if you are still feeling unsure, you can read this book, and there are 5 disqualifiers who will help you identify those 20%, so those 4 people from your 20 customers who would be willing to pay more. This book also comes with this website tool, 8020curve.com. And if you have already a certain amount of data, so for example, you have 20 customers who have paid an X amount of money, you can use this curve to see what is already true about your business or what will be true once you maximize every opportunity. And that means once you create an offer suite that can cater to these different people with different spending capabilities. So this brings me to the next steps. I want you first to identify what efforts and activities bring you the most results in your business, what moves your business furthest. Then I want to identify the sources of your clients. So for example, whether it's ads or whether it's LinkedIn or whether it is Meta or maybe it's networking or word of mouth. I want you to identify the sources of where your existing clients came from to understand which sources bring you 80% of the clients or maybe even 60%. So you can double down on those sources and forget those that don't bring you anything. And finally, I want you to plan how you could maximize the revenue from each existing client. And of course, I want you to create an offer suite. So in the future, with every client you get, you have the possibility to upsell things to maximize that revenue. So this is all for today. Thank you. And I hope you found it useful. And if you didn't understand it, let's go through this at our next Q&A, or you can book a separate call with me. It really changed my business, and I hope you also, by seeing this today, understand why this offer suite is so important and why this really works. And I hope you will be able to implement it in your business.